It's the final round of the Blancpain GT World Challenge Europe, and we are at the Hungary. Titles up for grabs, teams and drivers, not only overall, but Silver Cup, Pro-Am and Am as well. Qualifying, and there's a point for pole position in each session per class, is about to get underway as the lights go green. The cars head out onto a damp track, lots of overnight rain. Forecast isn't great, it's a bit muggy, it's very humid, and it feels like it's about to hoon it down once more. And let's see whether they're going to go for a banker lap for teams and how qualifying is going to pan out in anticipation of race one coming up later today. David Addison and John Watson trackside and as ever around the Hungary. Watty, qualifying is going to be vital.
Absolutely, and in these differing track conditions, assuming no more rain falls, the track will improve over the remaining 18.5 minutes. So while everybody is fundamentally piling out, what I would describe as an exploratory lap more than maybe a full-blown attempt at doing your qualifying lap, it will be interesting to see how teams work out what's going to work out best for them. And right now, it's a toss of the coin in a way.
It is indeed, and what's also interesting, just as an aside, and you just saw the car going down the pit lane into turn one, for a change in the sprint format, we've got a Porsche Dynamic Motorsport that won at Monza in the Blancpain GT Series Endurance Cup opener, have brought the distinctive bright green 911 for Giorgio Roda and Sven Müller to drive, and that is going to be another fascinating car to see how it shapes up against the opposition here.
Very much so. We are accustomed to seeing these Porsches in the endurance end of the Blancpain Endurance Challenge, but not in sprint, so how they will manage here at the Hungary Ring. It's a 3.9 kilometer, 2.4 mile circuit, 14 corners. It is sinuous from the point when you go out into the country, down in the valley, up into turn 4, good corner. A lot of abuse of curbing on the exit, need to keep an eye out on that one. Then from turn 5 all the way around to turn 11, it's literally you're locked one way, locked the other way. This is turn 5. Now it's not just coming on to start, finish straight. So 5.63, the car that is currently, or just after Nürburgring, taking over the lead in the championship.
Well, indeed, Marco Mappelli and Andrea Caldarelli put in 2 excellent races. They come here then now with the 8-point advantage in the championship. 20 minutes per qualifying stanza here. It doesn't give you much time to get your outlap completed and then start to do qualifying runs.
What was interesting is yesterday, in dry conditions, in the second of those free practice sessions, the quickest car was there, the principal challenger to the 563 Lamborghini, Luca Stolz, with a 1 minute 43.8, and the best lap in that session by this car we're riding on board with was only 20th, down in a 144.9. Where has the speed gone for 563? Or were they running on a set of tyres that was probably maybe seen the best part of goodness knows how many laps, and was the Mercedes on a new set of tyres? But one thing I did find interesting, talking to Christopher Hauser this morning, who actually was quickest overall in free practice 1, was that they went out and did their running on used tyres. When they put on a brand new set of tyres to go out and really nail it, they went slower.
Bizarre.
Well, Christopher Hauser is scratching his head.
Marco Mappelli is going to start race 1. He's behind the wheel of 563, and he is doing absolute best sector 1 and now sector 2. There are other cars that have already set lap times, like the Lexus of Aurelien Panis. He's on a 1 minute 50. The best laps that we got yesterday are 1:43 in the second session and a 43.5 in the first, a 1:43.4 therefore is the target time. We've done a 1:45.4. Tom Gamble, in amazingly what could be his last race of the year, because he's only doing the sprint season, and apart from his Formula 1 test, there you see Marco Mappelli going top on a 1 minute 44.182. Tom Gamble, winner of last year's BRDC McLaren Autosport Young Driver of the Year award, has a Formula 1 test to come, but no more racing, and he's looking for options, effectively looking for another drive, looking for something to do before the end of the year. 25 here, Simon Gachet. So the Santalot car looking decent, coming through the last corner, the last hairpin, turn 14 onto the pit straight, John.
So just getting my mouth all around it. Simon Gachet got third quickest, Marco Mappelli still quickest, Kelvin van der Linde, 8/10 of a second down. Now, track conditions like this, although there is still a certain amount of moisture being held in the tarmac, if you can get tire temperature and you get what is the best of the drying line, these can be very quick conditions. There's the car that was quickest overall in free practice too, Luca Stolz. So his time 1 minute 43.4, still yet to be challenged. And the time Marco Mappelli has achieved so far on his first flying lap is the best part of 7.5 tenths of a second away. But Luca Stolz fastest overall in sector 2. So he will be looking at, finds his way around the number 1 Audi. So comes into the penultimate corner. And now it's all about getting your car positioned for this long 180-degree turn 14. So you can see that Luca Stolz is not running very wide on the entry, but captures the water on the curb on the exit, but should go quickest overall. Waiting for the timing to
go second.
Second. Last time, arguably, on the exit of turn 14 by running that little bit too far wide.
Yeah, it's 3 tenths down on Mappelli. There is Mirko Bortolotti, who was a winner last year here. Race wins this car, 63 Lamborghini and ACA ASP Mercedes. I mentioned the Mercedes. Yes, it's a different team, but the Mercedes was, in the wet conditions, you might recall here last year, a winning car. Does that help the mindset of the Black Falcon team? We've got a couple of lap times now being cancelled. One is from the Brit Finlay Hutchison, and another is from number 76. Yes, the R Motorsport Aston. Track limits at turn 4. 76 is Marvin Kirchhofer, isn't it?
Before we even got underway, I said turn 4, run off on the exit, always going to play some track limit abuse. Kelvin van der Linde has been abusing the track. He's just gone quickest overall on the 143.7. Marco Mappelli down to second. Raffaele Marciello in the 88 Mercedes, who had I would say a dire-ish race at Nürburgring last weekend. They are up presently, provisionally third quickest.
I do Marvin Kirchhofer for an injustice. It's Ricky Collard who has been abusing track limits. Now this is Mirko Bortolotti, who has yet to do a lap time as Kelvin van der Linde's Audi goes quickest. 1:43.702, best lap of the weekend, 97 thousandths up on Mappelli. Here is Bortolotti, absolute best in sector 1, looking good. Number 63, the Grasser Lamborghini on its first proper flying lap with clear track space.
Using a lot of curb up around turns 6 and 7, and that will also be kept under the eye of the stewards, but certainly Mirko Bortolotti working his Lamborghini. Remember, this is the Grasser Racing Lamborghini, not the FFF1 Team Orange car. Different style of setup. Obviously, the drivers have their own preferences anyway. Mirko Bortolotti, fastest overall sector 1, personal best sector 2, will be looking to challenge for overall quickest at the end of this first flying lap for the Italian.
A high or even a better mid 1:43 will put him onto pole position. They're the real outsiders for the championship. Realistically, second is about as good as it's going to get. An error going into turn 14 there. The car almost getting away from Bortolotti. He's going to try to recover from that. But where will this lap time put him? He breaks the beam now, and he goes quickest. A 1:43.700 by 2 1/1000ths of a second. He's quickest.
Should have been better. There's the 88 looking for Raffaele Marciello. Fastest overall sector 2. Better exit out of turn 14. He may now also end up in the top 2. He may end up quickest. He is quickest by 100th of a second.
So Marciello by 10th ahead of Bortolotti. It's going to be a very, very competitive day, that is for sure. The top 8 all covered by less than a second. But where in all of this is the number 4 Mercedes, you may well ask, and 7th is the answer. Luca Stolz at the wheel of it. Now he's done a personal best in sector 1. 39 thousandths up on his earlier best. So Stolz pushing hard. The car has gained a little bit of yellow tape. It's also got a very wayward line there, and that's not going to help at all.
Coming into turn 13, again a corner. You can see the off camber, and it keeps sort of falling away, having to balance the car on the steering and on the throttle. Let's see if he gets a better mid-section. As the exit last lap, we saw him run too far wide, catch the curb. This time a cleaner exit, which is going to be good enough to see any improvement for Luca Stolz, previously down to 10th, up to 4th.
Okay, so that puts them ahead of Mappelli and Caldarelli on the grid. That's important. Ideally, they want pole because there's a point at stake. That would narrow the margin, obviously. The Black Falcon team looks on. There is the redoubtable Mauro Engel, real Mercedes specialist, drove for them in the DTM. And there is the Porsche I was talking about earlier. Gianluca Roda, who's had great success in ELMS with Porsches, is the man behind the wheel of it for Q1. Only 23rd at the moment. There's a bit more time to be found.
Yes, and I suspect that it's a matter of learning on the job, as they say, just getting this Porsche dialed in. Of course, drivers not maybe familiar with the sprint format, where you go out, you've got 20 minutes per driver, you've got to nail it in that 20-minute period. In differing track conditions, so a different kind of pressure on the two Porsche drivers this weekend.
Both of whom are new to the team. The mindset, though, is not that different because the qualifying sessions, I guess, in the Endurance Cup, in which Sven Muller, who will do Q2, he drives in that, you know, he's used to the short, sharp nature. This is in Pro-Am, Louis Machetes in the Ferrari, the AF Corsa run car that he shares with Andrea Bertolini. 9 minutes are still to go. And at the moment, looking pretty good, leading in Pro-Am. So class pole position beckons for the AF Corsa Ferrari.
So pretty much everybody has had one flying lap. Mirko Bortolotti on another flying lap, indicating that he's actually starting to signal he's out. So he's gone fastest overall on this lap in Sector 1. So we need to see whether he will maintain that performance. There he is. So fastest overall Sector 1, coming up to the conclusion of Sector 2. And you'll just go through it now, but it doesn't look like it's any improvement. 64 hundredths down, so it's a small... He needs to find that final tenth of a second to make it to that provisional pole currently held by 88 Mercedes Raffaele Marciello.
Now let's see what he can do at the last corner, because even on his gun lap earlier he made a tiny little slip and the car looks slightly better this time around. He's still really working it hard, as he has to do, up towards the timing line, a 43.6 to beat, and he does so on a 43.408. Bam! On to pole position goes Mirko Bortolotti by 0.192 of a second.
And that's now the fastest lap overall from the two free practice sessions yesterday, in better conditions than we got this morning. So he will be happy indeed with that performance. Ricky Collard, we talked about him. Well, Ricky, coming on the back of that success with Mervyn Kerkhofer in Nürburgring, up to 6th place in the first of the two Aston Martins.
There he is, turning his way then up towards the run to turn 12. Ricky Collard a little bit down in sectors 1 and 2. Still grinning from ear to ear this morning when I saw him, and it was a great drive last week, pressuring the two Audis into committing Harry Carey. So Lamborghini, Mercedes, Audi, Mercedes, Lamborghini, Aston Martin, the top 6.
Up to the final, he's coming into the pit lane, so 7 minutes remaining. He's time to come in if they want to make an alteration. The other option is to put on a fresh set of tyres if they have them available, if they want to run them, bearing in mind that we've got to get through these 2 one-hour races, one later this afternoon and then one on Sunday afternoon. It is a tough, demanding circuit. These conditions are not the conditions teams would have anticipated. Normally you come to this racetrack at this time of year, you're just coming to the end of that sort of Central European, the heat that just never leaves you. There's no wind, it's just heat.
Well, there, Renat Salikov, whose car was a bit of a punch bag at the Nürburgring, the Rinaldi Racing Ferrari that he shares with the quick South African David Parral. And Renat Salikov is another of those fighting in Pro-Am. That's led by Phil Keane and Hiroshi Hamaguchi. 102.5 points, plays 94 of the Ferrari, so you need to keep an eye to the Pro-Am fight this weekend as well. Salikov goes through, but goes no quicker. 6 more minutes on the clock, that's all.
The ones that will want to go back out again, in my opinion, are those that are in 4th and 5th place. Those are the two principal title challengers. The one that's leading that challenge is the number 563 Lamborghini in 5th place. The one that's lost that lead is the number 4 Mercedes, Lucas Stolz. They both need to go back out, try to improve to get either themselves, well, up ideally onto the front row of the grid. That would be a wonderful way to set off into the first of these two final sprint rounds.
There is Simon Gachet, number 25, struggling a little bit this morning. He's only 12 fastest, Gachet. We've been saying how much improved a driver he is this year, winner at Zandvoort, but here it's not really clicked as yet for him.
Strange, very wide mid-corner line. I don't think there's a huge amount of grip out there. Maybe he's hoping that because the track has been wet, that often the off-line in a corner in wet track conditions gives you more grip. But at these drying conditions, I can't think that Simon Gachet is going to find a lot of grip that far off the exit of turn 14.
So up towards the timing line he comes, and Gachet is down in the sectors, so on that previous lap, no improvement for him. We have Stefan Ortelli, though, going up to 11th. Ortelli had earlier lost a lap time for track limit abuse. Stefan Ortelli losing lap time for track limit abuse. What's the world coming to? At the bottom of the times currently is the sole AM Ferrari that we have this weekend, of Florian Scholzer and Wolfgang Triller, who have in all reality won the class of the championship, but there is Gachet using all of the road and then some.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been the case. The exit of turn 4 has been available. It's a big, wide run-off. It's not meant to be used as racetrack. Often the decision that might be made is that if actually you go so far off the racetrack, you're making the racetrack for yourself actually longer than the official length of the circuit. But it is generally not thought to be ideal, and drivers have been advised that lap times are being cancelled, and whether this lap time of Gachet's is one of those lap times or not, if it's certainly an improvement, it could be cancelled. If it's not an improvement, well, let it pass, there's no point.
So there you've got number 25, Simon Gachet, who is down to 13th, behind Ortelli, behind Tom Gamble. Leading Silver Cup car at the moment, by the way. He's number 90 Mercedes of Timo Boguslavski. And here is Gachet, he's hustling on. Now, as far as the lap is concerned, this should be an improvement. Look, 2 personal bests in the sectors. So Simon Gachet up to the line, 13th. The car was 5th. It is big improvement.
Massive, massive. Again, he uses that unusual line in the final turn where he makes a very early apex, runs out wide, then he cuts back. It's almost a 2 apex corner where others just use a single apex. Doesn't matter, he's delivered the goods.
88, Raffaele Marciello, second on the grid provisionally, 0.192 of a second back. Absolute best middle sector, John.
Indeed, so Raffaele Marciello looking to regain the form that they lost. They just don't know where it went at Nürburgring. A number of teams' drivers felt that either they weren't getting the best out of the car, i.e. the track conditions. It was a cooler weekend. Although that was the point. Mercedes generally is a car that is kind on its tyres, but if you've got track conditions that are not acquiescing with your car, then the time won't come through. Marciello, second quickest, currently remains second quickest, presently.
Whereas Simon Gachet has done an absolute best in Sector 1. We've also just had Stein Schotthorst go up to 4th in a Temto Audi 55. So the Temto twins are now 3rd and 4th. That is Lukas Stolz, who is 5th. But Simon Gachet, absolute best in the first sector. Stolz could be an improver with 2 personals. Then we'll get to Gachet because he is looking really good at the moment. But what can Stolz do? Is this going to be enough when it's all strung together to put him up at the very front? It's all very well being ahead of your championship rival as Ricky Collard goes 3rd in the Aston Martin, but ideally Stolz wants pole for the points. Here they come, so up towards the timing line. 2 personal bests. Will this be an improvement? He needs to move up from 6th. So where does he go? He goes fastest overall. Vital, a 1:43.270, and with it, the point for pole, unless Simon Gachet goes even better. He does not, he drops back in the last sector. So Gachet, absolute best, and then it unravelled. So Lukas Stolz, quickest, and an extra point. And Marco Mappelli, the championship leader, is only down in 9th place. He is on a personal lap. He's got personal best in Sector 1, Sector 2. So Marco Mappelli is going to improve, but how much by will he? Lukas Stolz has got a 1:43.2, Mappelli's best, a 1:43.7. There is the championship leading car coming out of the final turn. Now, is that going to be on the front row of the grid? Is it going to be pole, or will it start behind Lukas Stolz? 8th, row 4. Disappointing. It is. There's another man in a hurry. Raffaele Marciello, look in the background. Personal best, absolute best. Does Marciello go quickest? Yes, he does. He takes the point away in the championship from Lukas Stolz. Raffaele Marciello, by 0.221 of a second, goes quickest. But this weekend, more than ever, that point for pole is critical. Yes, and also that means currently, with what, just 44 seconds remaining, we've got a Mercedes-Benz front row lockout. Those are big cars. There will not be a lot of space going to turn 1 as Ricky Collard looks to try and further improve on his present 4th quickest. Probably not going to see any improvement on this lap unless he's got a personal best or a purple in the final sector. He remains 4th. Right, so Mappelli, absolute best. Ricky Collard goes through, but now Marco Mappelli, absolute best. Sector 1 is this on the last lap of the session, because the flag's imminent, where it's going to come when he's got stuck behind Mirko Bortolotti, who is 3rd. Traffic in the way. Is this going to go against Mappelli? Probably. Yes, indeed it is, because whatever the pace that Bortolotti is running at, it is a distraction, and the flag is out now. He's dropped away. Back, so yeah. That was, I hope, personal best. No, sorry, fastest overall Sector 1, but Sector 2 catches up to the rear of 63 Lamborghini, and just the time has gone. So that is huge disappointment for the FFF Lamborghini team, starting in the 4th row of the grid when your principal competitor, the team that had been leading the championship up to the Nürburgring,
the Black Falcon Mercedes is going to start in the front row of the grid.
Giorgio Sana from Lamborghini Squadra Corsa looks on in frustration. The 563 Lamborghini, the only car to have had more than one win in the Blancpain GT World Challenge Europe this year. All the others have been singleton winners, including this car. Fourth quickest, Ricky Collard. They've really unlocked something, haven't they, in the last week? Yes, they have. And I mean, Ricky's driving the wheels off the Aston Martin coming through turn 11. You can see well and truly off the track. The car just moving around a lot. But the car 1 weekend ago at Nürburgring was magnificent. It was a very emotional victory for the Aston Martin team, run of course by Arden Racing. And they were coming off the back of that horrible event at Spa on the Saturday afternoon. So the flag is out. Some take the flag on the track, others bail early so they can get the driver change done and get themselves sorted ready for Q2. That is the provisional grid we've just had set for the first race. Today's race then, with Raffaele Marciello on pole position by 0.204 of a second from Luca Stolz. So they're ahead, but they don't get the bonus point for the pole position, ahead of Mappelli and Caldarelli, I mean. Bortolotti third, Collard fourth, Van der Linde fifth, then Neubauer, Gachet, Mappelli, Schrothorst and Boguslavski to round out the top 10. One might say that FIF Racing might be quite happy not to be, certainly not have Luca Stolz in pole position, because that, as you point out, that 1 point might make the difference. So Raffaele Marciello sets the best time, 0.204 up on Luca Stolz. Mirko Bortolotti sharing row 2 with Ricky Collard. Kelvin van der Linde, then Thomas Neubauer on row 3, ahead of Simon Gachet, Marco Mappelli, Stein Schrothorst and Timo Boguslavski, 10th quickest. Aro Vainio doing a very good job to be 11th, ahead of Matthew Drudi and Tom Gamble. The Lexus of Aurélien Panis is ahead of a rather subdued Charles Weir, only 15th. 16th quickest is where you find Diego Menchaca, ahead of Oscar Tunho, then Stefan Ortelli, Kim Louis Schramm, 19th, Finlay Hutchison is 20th, 21st Stephen Paulette, and only 22nd is Ezequiel Perez Compang. The WRT out, he's not having a good start to the day. Renat Salikov 23rd from Hiroshi Hamaguchi. After that was Giorgio Roda's Porsche from Louis Machils, Florian Schulze, and at the foot of the times, Jean-Luc Beaubelique. But not good for WRT, John. No, it's not. I mean, to be down in 22nd place for the number 1 Audi, and then, I mean, Dries van Voor has obviously got to be a candidate for pole position for Q2, because he has been outstanding. He was outstanding at Nürburgring. He did one flying lap at the time, was nailed. They did go out for a second lap, but it was just to check, be ready should he have to defend that time. He didn't. Ultimately, after 2 corners, the team said, back off, come into the pits, you are secure. But Ezequiel Perez Compang down in 22nd place in that number 1 Audi. I mean, the car that he came in contact with, the number 2 WRT, driven by Charles Vetz, is in 15th place. So 7 places between the 2 WRT entries, number 1 and number 2. But way off where they ought to be by normal performance standards. Luca Stolz talking to Maro Engel. But Raffaele Marciello, quickest in Q1. Let's hear from him with Nicky Shields.
Raffaele Marciello, I mean, that was an incredibly tight qualifying. We knew being the final weekend it was going to be, but you've set yourself up for a great race weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I really wanted this pole. It's been quite difficult season for us in the sprint and yeah, also endurance, but I really wanted the pole, and yeah, the car was great, so really big thanks to Akka, and yeah, I'm quite happy about my lap.
And how are you feeling about the race weekend, you know, altogether? Obviously, this is when the championship could be won or lost.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite difficult to overtake in this track, so being on pole for sure is a bigger advantage, but the start is also quite important. But yeah, it's a good position for the start, and now we'll see in Q2 if Vince is doing a good job.
Absolutely. Good luck. Thanks very much.
So Raffaele Marciello, sadly, out of the hunt as far as the overall championship is concerned. But what they can do, of course, is take points away from those that are fighting for it, make life tougher. Yes, and you know, that's motor racing. I mean, there is no free pass because you're leading a championship. To have the 2 principal contenders start on the front row of the grid and have their own little private war while everybody else picks up the pieces. Akka and Black Falcon, rival Mercedes teams, but Mercedes teams, and it's Black Falcon pitching for the championship. Is there a possibility that there might be a tap on the shoulder of Akka to say, right, come on, for Mercedes here, you need to help Black Falcon take more points away from the Lamborghini this weekend? What do you think? I think if you want to believe in fantasy, read a book. It's every man for himself, I don't think
it would happen.
Okay.
These are two independent teams. They're running independently. They have their own budget. They come under the family of Mercedes-Benz in the same way as you saw what happened on track with the Lamborghinis. The 63 got in the way of the 563.
Yep.
All members of the same family, but there was no assistance given.
True, true, true. So the fast lane is open, ready for Q2. We are going to be underway very shortly. Reset, so what you've seen is of interest, but as the second driver gets on board, it is going to be, of course, now determining the grid for the second of the races. You've got the highlights showing what was going on as the track was drying, and one of the better sessions, really, with pole position being traded throughout. Good efforts being put in by Raffaele Marciello early on. Don't forget Ricky Collard, who ended up fourth and lost an early lap time for track limits. There, number 4, Luca Stolz, behind the wheel of it, and he was looking rapid. So too in the classes. Hiroshi Hamaguchi early on. He, of course, is the man that leads in Pro-Am. Running wide over the curbs, sparks flying from underneath. Marciello on a mission. Had pole, lost pole, got it back again, and hustle the ACA ASP Mercedes then to the top time, a 1:43.049 as we get set for Q2. Now, number 63, Mirko Bortolotti, under investigation for impeding another car.
I would have to say that's probably a fair call, because undoubtedly Marco Mappelli was on a flying lap. He had just gone purple in Sector 1, and he came up behind the 63 car, which wasn't running at that pace. And there could have been, and we just talked about how much association and cooperation there is between rival brands, but certainly within a brand, rival teams. And there was none at that point given. Now, Mirko might say, I'm sorry, look, I didn't see you. I was doing something in the cockpit. But it's going to be investigated. Whether that will be a penalty for the 63 Lamborghini, that's down to the stewards.
So Q2 about to get underway, and you can still see the damp patches, despite the fact that it's not cold, far from it. The road is still not bone dry. And let's see what the second set of times are by way of comparison with Q1. There, the track temperature, 20 degrees. You see what the humidity is. Up to 56 now. Air pressure there as well.
Feels more humid than that factor, that figure. By the way, just for those that are interested in these kind of things, lights are no longer mandatory for Q2. Which is fundamentally that when we started Q1, conditions were between damp and drying, and therefore it was deemed to be appropriate that drivers would have their lights on. The light levels were probably at slightly lower level. They've now raised as this sort of oppressive cloud base that's been hanging over the circuit really since we got here this morning. What time did you get in?
About 8:30.
Oh, I was behind you then.
Yeah.
Usual story.
Hugo de Sadelier there takes over from Aro Vigno in the Silver Cup, our Motorsport Aston Martin. Like many cars this weekend, with the Racing for Antoine stickers in memory of Antoine Hubert, and the Swiss our Motorsport squad coming here on the back of that great win outright. As away down the pit lane goes number 17 of Shea Davis for WRT, and again, same principle applies. Battle here between number 4 Mercedes, number 563 Lamborghini. Point for pole for race 2 at stake as well.
You'll have to think that the driver lined up in the number 4 Mercedes, Maro Engel, behind the wheel now after Lucas Stolz has done his job. And the 563 Lamborghini, Andrea Caldarelli, sporting now a very, very fine-looking beard. I said, how long does that take to grow? Oh, about a week, he said. There must be a lot of testosterone in that boy, that's all I can say.
Adding to the weight now, the beard. So Andrea Caldarelli will be behind the wheel of 563, complete with the beard. There is the green Shea Davis driven Audi, determined to get out first and get clear track space. 888 will be, sorry, 88, ACA ASP will be good to go with the Mercedes, the Vassar Avril, new tires, sticky tires going on that car. So that's the one that we know is quick, desperately keen to avenge an awful weekend in Germany. Many of the teams, of course, having dashed straight from the Nürburgring to here. There are the AM champions at HB Racing, Florian Scholzer and Wolfgang Triller. Florian Scholzer, the former Lamborghini Super Trofeo racer, Wolfgang Triller behind the wheel.
Never happy seeing a racing driver wearing any form of eye, I mean, sunglasses in the case of, there may be medical lenses as well, but it's rare to see a racing driver wearing glasses. Now, I know that there are a few that do, but to see somebody wearing sunglasses, not my ideal, put it that way.
Well, Wolfgang, it's not actually that sunny a day, it's not that bright. Wolfgang Triller is away anyway in the Ferrari. There is 555 Taylor Proto ahead of Sven Muller in the green Porsche. They didn't do a great deal in Q1, but Sven Muller,
Absolutely.
we know, is a gun.
Oh, he is. He will undoubtedly bring that Porsche further up the field than Rode did when he was out in Q1 a few moments ago. As we go, sounds a lot. Oh, sorry, the attempt of Nick Foster going to go out in that car.
Interesting, isn't it? Nick splitting his time between different championships for different brands.
A
Ferrari in Intercontinental,
yeah,
and Audi in European races.
Ferrari in Spa as well.
Yeah, as an Intercontinental round, that's right.
Yeah.
So there's number 90, Felipe Fraga, good to go. He takes over from Timo Boguslavski.
Well, Felipe Fraga, I mean, Boguslavski did a good job, but Fraga, of the two, is the more experienced, and certainly, you know, a proper racer. I mean, comes from Brazil stock car racing, which is intense, put it that way. And he's not adverse to getting his shoulders out and making space for already what is a fairly large car.
Indeed so. Right, so the pit lane is emptying. Everybody making their way now down the pit road. There goes Christopher Mies, number 2. Dries Van Tor will go out in number 1. 63 is going to be Christian Engelhardt. 26 is Marcus Winkelhock. And Dries Van Tor is the one being kept back at the moment from WRT, because there's no point releasing him in a queue of cars. Give him some clear track space.
Yep. Interesting, Nico Bastian, although it's only on an outlap, he's got purple on an outlap in the sector 2. I mean, ideally, you don't want to be on your fresh tyres, maybe in some cases new tyres, too hard, because here at the Hungaroring, it's always been a case of where do you start to then really nail it before you go onto a flying lap. And some drivers and cars prefer to do it mid through, maybe second sector, some wait until they get into the final sector before they really start to wind it up. But currently Nico Bastian is the one that's doing that, and he is fastest overall on his outlap in sectors 2 and 3 by a substantial margin.
An interesting session though, interesting group of drivers again. Phil Keane, we know, is very quick from what he's done with Lamborghinis in this championship in British GT. And Phil's going to set the target time, isn't he? But you've got Christopher Mies, Mauro Engel, Jamie Green, Rick Rokas, Fred Vervish, Jack Hawksworth, Dorian Moccolacci, Christopher Haase, Sven Muller, Nick Foster, amongst those now Dries Van Tor all out on track. So it's going to be a very interesting, very competitive session, of course.
Well, the battle between Dries Van Tor and Christopher Mies in their respective Audis will be, again, I think one of the highlights. With 16 and a half odd minutes remaining, Phil Keane currently quickest overall. Silver Cup car, fastest overall, second. Phil Keane, I mean, we're more familiar with him in GT racing in the UK, but is now a Lamborghini contracted driver and flies under the radar all the time.
He does, and yet very, very highly regarded, very competent driver, whether it's in modern GT cars or in historic sports cars. Watching Brad Goodwood, for example, a joy to watch. Andrea Caldarelli is another driver that's in this session, of course, and the target time is going to be offered up by Phil Keane, who does a 1 minute 44.257.
But Nico Bastian's the car that's going to go quickest, 144.1. There is the number 4 car, Mauro Engel. So he's going on to his, I think this is his first flying lap. He's already completed a night lap. Luca Stoltz, eyes wide open, watching timing and scoring to see what his teammate can do. You can see now that the line is oh, Mauro Engel, what are you doing away out there? And he did the right thing. He bailed out of it. There's a curve on the exit of turn 4, which is quite an aggressive curve. You only really see it from this camera angle. And I've seen that corner on other camera angles, but it doesn't show up that drop off the way we've just illustrated there. Moccolacci's gone quickest. No, it's Jamie Green's gone quickest.
In the Phoenix Audi, ahead of the Santalot car. It's interesting, because of the amount of drivers running wide yesterday in the free practice sessions, the race director issued a track limits report. No other venue has had one, but here, just to illustrate how many times and how many cars had been exceeding track limits and where, a report was published just showing the teams the problem.
And look, I mean, this is coming around turn 7, 8 and 9. The amount of gravel that's been dragged onto the track around those corners. So the race line, or the line that these cars are running on for their qualifying laps, is effectively being narrowed by those that have gone off track, kicked up gravel everywhere. And so another factor that drivers. Christopher Haase, 25, Santalot Racing, 143.6.
So .197 splits the Audis at the top of the times. Haven't said that today, but
no.
Haase from green now different drivers, and also it's getting brighter, it's getting a bit warmer, and the qualifying looking different. We're losing lap times. We're losing lap times because Koehler has lost a lap time, and so has Clement Schmidt.
Felipe Fraga's gone quickest. Phil Keen second. Pla third, but watch Dries van Voor on a flying lap. Personal best sector 1, fastest overall sector 2. Coming up to the completion of a lap, Dries van Voor has the opportunity to depose Felipe Fraga for that coveted number 1. Dries van Voor only third, so somewhere down the line, those 2 personal bests didn't do enough to get him up onto that provisional front row of the grid.
Andrea Calderelli, championship leader, yet to do a lap time. Personal bests, obviously, because it's his first flying lap. But the real question is, where is this going to put him in the overall order? And, of course, in relation when we get a time out of it from number 4, Mauro Engel, because his previous lap was a bit of a write-off. Here comes Calderelli. Anything in the 43s is decent at the moment. And it's a 43.6, and that puts him 6th fastest.
As they say.
They do. Even
Mauro
in Italian,
Engel,
they say.
Mauro Engel all the way down, still yet to compete a flying lap. We saw him having to bail out of the car up at turn 4, so he's got a personal best in sector 1, a personal best in sector 2. The Calderelli Lamborghini currently provisionally 6th, now down to 7th, because we've seen a further improvement. Dries van Voor has dropped down, and it was Calderelli is 7th anyway. This car currently 23rd is going to leap up because it's personal best in sector 1 and 2. Comes across the start-finish line, and where will he end up? 9th.
9th fastest.
Surprising.
Still got 13 minutes, just under, and times can improve right to the very end, track space permitting. Lukas Stoltz looks on, all the data being studied. The Black Falcon team, German-based squad run by the Brit, Sean Breslin. Now, this is Calderelli, absolute best in the first sector.
Know that this Lamborghini works especially well in these kind of middle speed corners, the way they've got the car set up. It's different to the grass racing we keep referring to. It's 100th of a second down, so it almost cancels out that personal, in fact overall best in sector 1. Again, traffic coming into play, and it's the 88 Mercedes, so will Calderelli be impeded by the 88 Vassar Parral, who may be looking at that car currently second quickest, and he's into the pit lane, so Calderelli will be breathing a sigh of relief. It will have allowed him to get into the final turn uncompromised, I would imagine. But it will be an improvement, but not a huge amount.
He's lost 4/10 in the middle sector.
Stays the same 7th.
Yeah, he lost in sector 2 and in sector 3, so he's down in both. So that lap got away despite it starting so well, as Mauro Engel has now done the absolute best sector 1. Pendulum swings from Lamborghini to this car. Mauro Engel, absolute best, personal best, and now you've got to be in the low 143s. Mercedes quickest for Felipe Fraga, Mercedes second, Vincent Avril.
Looking good for Mauro Engel. The car looks good, the car's body language looks good. So coming up into the final turn, you can see the left hand coming over the top of the steering wheel, then just releasing the steering lock, slight balance of throttle. Mauro Engel could potentially take provisional pole, but he loses it all by 0.2 of a second in that final sector. He goes 5th.
Even though the final sector was a personal best. So where's it all unraveled? Absolute and 2 personals, and yet only 5th fastest in the end. We've got another lap time being cancelled for track limits. Fred Vervisch and Christian Engelhardt goes 10th. So it's Fraga, Avril, Phil Keen, mega job. Haase, Engel, Van Voor, Pla, Calderelli, Green, Engelhardt, the top 10. And right now, the best of the Lamborghinis is 3rd fastest, but it's the Phil Keen car, which of course is crucial in the Pro-Am fight.
Yeah, but it's a Silver Cup car that's fastest overall, Felipe Fraga, in a Mercedes. The next best Mercedes is all the way down in 5th place.
Very sideways Lamborghini there. Was that Engelhardt?
Yes, it is.
That's Calderelli coming into the pit lane. We've cut shots from turn 2 up to the end of the lap. Calderelli into the pit lane.
Still 10 or so minutes of the session remaining for the team to go back in, decide. Well, we're currently in the 4th row of the grid. We are a grid and a couple of lanes back on our principal challengers, and that is, yes, Mauro Engel is on the 3rd row of the grid, and Andrea Calderelli is on the 4th row of the grid. So Calderelli has work to do to get that Lamborghini, and they said on Sunday's race, which was the cooler of the 2 days, that they were struggling to get the balance of the car. We know that the car's got excellent balance. It's a different setup to the Grasso Racing. It works very well for Andrea Caldarelli in particular, but they couldn't quite get the car to dial into that sort of that narrow window where, when it does work, it's most effective.
So there is Fred Verviche over the timing line. He's the man trying to make up for losing a lap, but he is 14th, that's all. And there is Andrea Caldarelli having a think and ready to go again in the car, currently 8th fastest. But that said, Maro Engel's only 5th. Yes, they're behind. They're not behind by much.
Yeah, but it's a difficult circuit to overtake. We know that this sort of sinuous circuit from, well, really from turn 4, this is the middle part of the circuit. This is sector 2, where it's a right and a left and a right and a left, and really there is nowhere to pass. Out of turn 11, the run down to turn 12, the quick and the brave would try it, but it compromises you so much on the exit that it leaves you then vulnerable to be overtaken again coming into turn 13.
So treble 3, David Parral, yet to do a lap time, interestingly, in the Rinaldi Racing Ferrari. Where is this going to put him in Pro-Am? Because Phil Keane is 3rd overall. That's the time he's aiming for, 1:43.416. You've got to be good to go quicker than Phil Keane. To be fair, David Parral will break the beam.
Well, he's going on to a flank lap now, so that was so this is now the flank lap that he's beginning.
Very late into the session we're doing this, 8 minutes to go, and he's a little bit crossed up at turn 1.
The beauty is he's only got 1, 2, 3, 4. He's the 5th car on the circuit, so an empty racetrack, a racetrack that in theory is getting better by the minute or by the lap, because the track is getting more and more dry, so you've got more confidence. You know that you're not going to be going through on certain parts of the circuit maybe that fraction of dampness that might make you unsettled. There you can see the different shades of grey, which indicate whether it's good or bad, and I can't really tell you which of those 2 shades of grey is better or worse.
There is the Ferrari then, up to the midpoint of the lap. David Parral, quick racer, took some time away to build up a business, come back into racing, and of course in Europe, not just in South Africa. Hopefully he'll be on the grid for the Kyle Army 9 Hours at the end of the season, which will be a big focal point of his season, and of course to have a local driver for the fans to cheer on as well. Yeah,
major event at Kyle Army coming up at the back end of November. Goes back, I raced in Kyle Army 9 Hours back in 1973, I think it might have been. And I raced it a bit later, about 1980 as well.
1973. Some of us were only 1 year old, John. Anyway, good to go. There's David Parral, is heading up towards the end of the lap. This lap time is going to put him into, what, Jim Pla's area, 1:43.5 for second. I'm not suggesting David, with respect, is going to get on the Phil Keane time. Let's see what he can do. It's a 1:44.1. And where does that put him in class? 3rd in class, 17th overall, but 3rd in class. Flashing the lights of the traffic ahead. 6.5 minutes to go. They're coming back out, John. It's going to get busy again.
Oh, yeah, it has to, because there are too many people. This car, for example, needs to consolidate his 3rd row position. In fact, ideally, he wants to improve upon it, but one thing is for sure, the 563 Lamborghini will be back out in 8th place. Christian Engelhardt down in 10th place in the 63 Lamborghini. Nico Bastian, 2nd of the Silver Cup cars in 11th. But it's still Felipe Fraga, that number 90 Mercedes Silver Cup car, leading the way by 40 or 4 thousandths of a second.
So, Fraga, Avril, Keane, Haase, Engel, Vantor, Pla, Caldarelli, Green, Engelhardt is the order. Very jumbled compared to what we had in Q1.
Now there's always a problem. You've just completed a flying lap, you're coming on to go another lap, and there's about 6 cars all pile out of the pit lane, all on the right lap, going through turns 1 and 2 slowly. So it was, in fact, the Mercedes of Vassar and Avril is the car that was on, or this is coming to the conclusion, I should say, of that lap 4. This will be his 4th lap, indeed it is. So, back end steps out a little bit for Vassar and Avril, so that's going to take away any improvement, any chance of improvement, which probably wasn't there on this particular lap. It didn't show as if any major improvements were coming, and in fact it was out, so he's now gone on. This is the beginning of a flying lap, the last opportunity for the number 88 Mercedes to try and challenge for pole.
I'm looking for improvements in sectors. David Parral we know about, because he's slightly out of sequence, having really only 1 run compared to the 2 shots that everybody else is having in this session. The gap between the top 2, Fraga and Avril, and you're looking at Vassar Avril, is still 4 hundredths of a second. That is all. That's the margin. So 4 hundredths or 40 thousandths if you prefer. David Parral goes 6th quickest. Mega job, 1 minute 43.502 in the Ferrari. Fantastic.
Stayed out, had a relatively empty racetrack, got his tyres into that working zone, which is absolutely crucial and key to get a quick lap. Vance and Avril pushing hard, but just under 0.2 of a second down in sector 1. Cuts across the curve, going through turn 7. Then the first of this left, right, using the curve on the inside. Get back again, cut over to the right to do the same thing, to go through the right. Then the turn 10 opens up a little bit more and allows you to pick up speed. Then the quick flick to the right, turn 11, run the curb, run the exit. It's not too much then, hard on the brakes, fastest overall by 1/4 of a second.
But down in sector 1, so does sector 2 compensate for sector 1? He's only got to find 400, so it should do net. This is going to be a pole position lap. Comes now through turn 13. He's trying to peer through that rather pock-marked windscreen. Looks like he's got bullet holes in it. But Vassar Avril going for pole. He's got to beat a 1:43.274. Is this a pole position lap time as he heads across the line? It is! 1:43.079. Vassar Avril goes quickest.
And that was a good lap by the Monegasque to get his Mercedes 88 onto provisional pole. We've got, what, 3 minutes and stuff remaining. So yet again, it's a Mercedes front grid lockout. 63, the Grasser Racing, Christian Engelhardt down in 12th place. Nothing stunning, personal best in the second sector for the German, so he needs to find some time somewhere to get that Lamborghini, which we are accustomed to seeing near the front of every round, further up the field. So where will Engelhardt end up? He ends up in second front row of the grid.
Okay, that's intriguing, isn't it? Lamborghini back, but look at Mauro Engel. Absolute best from Engel in sector 1. So the number 4 Mercedes, there it is, traffic around it. Remember, there's this point at stake here. And where is Caldarelli? He's back on track.
He's gone back out, but this is a strong run from Mauro Engel. That is one of the Audis just ahead, which will hopefully not become an issue for this lap. So Engel coming across, 3.2 seconds down. Well, where's all that been lost? We didn't see it. Must have happened just after he's backed out of it, and rightly so too, because the 2 reasons he's lost that lump of time, but traffic ahead, so he's been told to back out. Now, Andrea Caldarelli, where is he? Christopher Misa's just up to 5th place.
Fight until the end is the message at FFF Racing.
Nico Bastian, leading car now in Silver Cup. He's gone 4th.
And Vantor has gone 3rd. So it is Avril, Engelhardt, Vantor, Fraga, Bastian, Keen, Mies, Haase, Engel, Parral, the top 10. Christopher Haase, absolute best sector 1. Let's just see what Caldarelli could do, because he was a little bit down in the first, but a personal best in the second. He's got to improve from 13th, and he goes 5th, which puts them ahead of the number 4 Mercedes.
And significantly, because the number 4 Mercedes will start on the 6th row of the grid. Caldarelli will start on the 3rd row of the grid, and there's tons of traffic in between. Christopher Haase, the man on a charge, fastest first sector, coming up conclusion of second sector. There is the Santa Lock Audi. So helps he down, personal best in the middle sector for Christopher Haase. Again, using all the racetrack right out to the very edge. Those curbings are still damp. He needs to be careful, but good line and exit through turn 13. But personal best, he's got to go provisional pole. Very wide again, that car, whether it's Haase or Gashe, takes a much different line in the final turn. This could be the pole lap. It's not. Where's it all gone?
Lost 3/10 in the last sector. 8th only, Christopher Haase.
Andrea Caldarelli, 5th and fastest overall in sector 1.
Exactly right. So Caldarelli looking good. That's Dries Vantor, who is down in the middle sector. So this lap is not going to be quite as exciting as we would like it to be. It's going to be good, but it's not going to be outstanding, I would have thought. Sven Muller in the Porsche is up to 14th. The session has got only seconds to go. The real question in this is whether Engel can actually piece together one more lap before the very end. Over the line goes Vantor, stays 3rd.
Yep, so that's consolidation. Caldarelli is currently in that 5th position. There he comes through turn 13.
But Haase has gone quicker in the first sector. Engel goes 4th, Mauro Engel, and he squeezed one more lap out of it just. The flag is now out. Caldarelli to improve possibly. 6th he is, behind the Mercedes, breaks the beam. 6th, and that will put him ahead of the Mercedes now.
Yes, but flag is out. So Vincent Avril and Christian Engelhardt, front row of the grid, Dries van Voor, Maro Engel, second row, Fraga and Caldarelli, third row. So there is Christopher Haase, and he's being pursued, but it's somewhat irrelevant, but he's sort of cancelled out that first sector time, which is quickest overall by virtually, in fact, a fraction of a second slower. And second sector to what Christopher Haase can do in this session. He's currently in 10th position. He needs to get his 25 Audi up. Again, that line that we've seen, I'm not persuaded by it, but it seems to work for them on certain laps. And whether this will be a further improvement, wait and see. 8th, small improvement.
I told you a lie about the Lamborghini, so it stays behind Maro Engel. There is Dries van Voor. I thought he'd taken the flag, but he has not. He's got another lap time out of this. So Engel 4th and Caldarelli 6th. Mercedes is ahead, neither of them benefiting from the available point for pole. Dries van Voor then up towards the timing line, but he's down by nearly 2 seconds in that middle sector, and he abandons the lap.
Yeah, and he's coming into the pit lane. I mean, he decided, and that's been disappointing in some respects, because Dries van Voor, we know, outstanding, but Maro Engel down in sector 1, down in sector 2, currently in 4th, unlikely to improve.
Stays 4th.
Stays 4th.
But ahead of the Lamborghini. That's accomplished in one respect.
So the Lamborghini is directly behind the Mercedes on the grid, so it'll be a bit of a charge for the number 4 Mercedes and the number 563 Lamborghini in Sunday's race to get into turn 1 and get key track position. Again, everybody dives to the inside of turn 1. If you can find space to go around the outside, and principally when you get to the exit of the corner, you're not going to be compromised by a car running out to the edge, you can make up places.
A word for Jim Pla, because he is 10th, and we've just had a lap time for 563 Andrea Caldarelli cancelled for track limits. Caldarelli 13th at the end of the session, and Lucas Stoltz, I think, has just seen it on the screen, but Andrea Caldarelli loses a lap time for track limit abuse. So Caldarelli 13th on the grid. Jim Pla, I was about to get excited about, because he takes Pro-Am pole for him and Mauro Ricci, but Caldarelli, victim of track limits, and will start 13th.
At least it was the boss that did it.
Well,
I mean, is the boss going to give the boss, come into my office, Caldarelli, I'm the boss. Yes, Mr. Caldarelli, what did I do wrong?
Allow me to give myself a stern talking to. Well, Caldarelli down to 13th. It's not over till it's over. This is the provisional order. Vincent Avril takes pole, takes the point ahead of Christian Engelhardt, winner here last year, and Dries van Voor 3rd. 4th, Maro Engel ahead of Felipe Fraga and the Porsche 6th, Sven Muller. Then the Christophers, Haase outpacing Mies, Nico Bastian 9th from Jim Pla, Phil Keen, and Taylor Proto racing here for the first time, cracking effort that 12th. Andrea Caldarelli drops to 13th ahead of David Parral, and Marvin Kirchhofer 15th for SRO Motorsports in the Aston Martin. 16th fastest Andrea Bertolini, taking over the Louis Machiel's Ferrari ahead of Fred Vavish, and then Jamie Green and Marcus Winkelhock. Those Audis in this session not looking as pacey as they did at the start, oddly. He seemed to have good pace early on and then fade away. 20th Hugo de Sandivier from Jack Hawksworth, 21st. Then you've got Rick Brokers for WRT, 22nd from Dorian Boccolacci, Clement Schmidt, Milan Doncha. So Attempto struggling in that session, with Nick Foster only 26th as well. 27th, Shea Davis and Wolfgang Triller, the only AM entrant, him and Florian Schulze, 28th. But what's happened to Attempto all of a sudden? I know they lost lap times for track limits, like many, but the pace of those cars has disappeared. There's a bit of head-scratching, I would have thought, at Audi. It's not really clicked, has it? I know they've got Vantor 3rd, but not looking strong across the order. The majority of the Audis in the second half of the field. So it's 2 out of 2 for ACA ASP. Raffaele Marciello tops Q1. Vincent Avril tops the times in Q2. Avril quickest by 92 thousandths.
Vincent Avril, I mean, what a fantastic start to the weekend for the team. Double pole positions here. You must be very happy.
Well, first of all, shout out to the whole team, which kept faith in me before the last quali, and this practice session was not going well. I was, to be honest, quite struggling, but that's where you recognize the great team and the great team principles when they believe in you, and they gave me a fantastic car today. Raffaele did a great benchmark in the car. I had the Delta, so I knew more or less where I was going. And in the last run, I said, I just went for it, and that was probably one of my best laps of my career for sure.
Excellent. You're absolutely buzzing. I could feel it from you. I mean, what's the strategy going to be for the race? I mean, this really is a fight to the bitter end.
It is, and to be honest, we're in a position now where we just want to win, and we're not in the championship fight, obviously not anymore. We've always been quick this year, but you know, racing is not always going to plan. But at least what we can do now is finish really on a high, and hope for the best. But we're starting on the front row on both cars, so it's mega. Really
Great place to be in. Thanks very much. Good luck for the race.
So great job done by Vincent Avril and by Raffaele Marciello. And what about the mood in the camp here at FFF Racing Team, because a lap time cancelled, the last lap done by Andrea Caldarelli, and it's a significant loss, putting him back to 13th, which is nearly mid-grid.
I mean, it's a bad place to start. Of course, we don't know what will happen in race 1 this afternoon, but regardless of that, the fact that you're starting so far back, 6th, 7th row of the grid, in a racetrack where overtaking we know is notoriously difficult, and it's only a 1 hour race, and you've got roughly 30 minutes per driver with that mandatory pit stop. So it's, I mean, talking about starting on the back foot or starting on the back feet in this case.
Well, there's Christopher Haase discussing life, and an incident of impeding number 4 Mercedes from the number 1 Vanthoor Audi. No further action. Stewards have had a look at the footage available and said, no, that's all right. So nothing happens there, and the teams now prepare themselves for racing this afternoon, looking into the Santaloc garage there. That's the Stefano Ortelli, Dorian Boccolacci car. A word about Dorian Boccolacci, former karting teammate to Antoine Hubert, so he's had a tough week as well to cope with, but making his GT debut last week with Stefano Ortelli and adapting nicely to the Audi. Yeah,
there was a group of young French drivers that competed in karting and all the junior formulas, and they were all mates, and it's, you know, great to see the camaraderie amongst those drivers. And I mean, obviously the shock of events and at Spa-Francorchamps last Saturday evening, and it's still very much in the memories of everybody, and continuing so at the minute.
Indeed so. So there is Stefano Ortelli. Good to have him back in the Blancpain GT World Challenge Europe. Former Le Mans winner, Spa 24 Hours winner, Porsche Super Cup champion, you name it. A guy whose GT connection stretches all the way back to the mid-1990s and the BPR days into what morphed into the FIA GT Championship. And as ever, smiling. And
a great advertisement for the Mediterranean diet, because only through that can you have that luscious dark hair at whatever age Stefano Ortelli is.
And he's still enjoying his racing, and still has a part to play in developing young drivers. It'd be of great benefit to Dorian Boccolacci, helping to guide him forward. So here at the Hungaroring, qualifying is done. Race 1 later on today will be getting underway roundabout. We'll be on air from 10 minutes to 3 local time, and it's what, nearly 11:30 local time now. It's going to be a fascinating race in isolation, and then of course you've got the championship situation to put into the battle. Well, Andrea Caldarelli comes here as championship leader, but he's got some explaining to do about track limit abuse.
Andrea Caldarelli, obviously we've just heard the bad news that your time in qualification has been disqualified due to exceeding the track limits. Tell us what happened at turn 4, because we didn't actually get to see it. Do you agree with the marshal's decision?
Well, I don't know. I asked the guys to check the video, because it was at the limit, but I was not really sure about that. I went over. It's pity, because I don't know where we're gonna start, but that was, I think, was a good lap for me. So yeah, it's pity. I don't know what to say, honestly. Let's see what the video says, but we know that this championship, if Marshall decides, it's done. So nothing we can do really.
Exactly. I mean, I think at the moment they're saying starting down in P13, but you know, it's been a phenomenal season for you to date. If anyone can fight back up to the top, it's going to be you.
Yeah, I will try. I will try all my best. All the team there, all the guys. I'm really sorry for them. We have to start so back, but we'll try really our best to bring back this cup home.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, 13th puts you in jeopardy, as John was making the point earlier. You've got cars all around. You can drive your own race, but what you can't legislate for is what people around you are going to do. Look at the highlights of Q2 then, as the cars headed out onto the circuit. Wolfgang Triller, the AM champion already, was in and among the mids, as there you have 519 Phil Keane, who set the original top time. We had a good effort put in by all the Mercedes, including, of course, number 4, Mauro Engel at the wheel. But ultimately, it was Vincent Avril who would top the time, as Mauro Engel using all of the track limits and then a little bit. And track limits, of course, would do for the championship leader, Andrea Caldarelli, losing his final good lap because of track limit abuse, meaning that he will start 13th going into tomorrow's race. Race 1 comes up this afternoon. Join us for that. It's going to be a stormer. From John Watson and David Addison for now. Goodbye.